What's up guys, it's Jerrell. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get a good quality mix and a professional sound on your vocal tracks using Bandlab on your phone for free. Check it out. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to open up the Bandlab app. And if you don't have it, go ahead and download it on Google Play or Apple. And I recently did a remix by Roddy Ricch called Backseat. And it's a good song. I really was vibing with it, so I went on and laid a verse down. But we're going to focus on just this track 6 right here and just part of it. So I'm going to solo it out. So this is what it sounded like after I processed it.
She went to Gucci, I gave her the product. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah,
So that's what it sounds like after I did everything I wanted to do to it as far as the production. But I'm going to go ahead and reset this. So this is the filter that they give you, and they have plenty of filters you could choose from. Just, you have complete creative freedom, whatever you like. You use it, edit it, alter it to fit your sound and preference. But I go with this Yachty filter a lot, just because I just like with the presets that they have. I recommend on this EQ just kind of balancing everything out if you want to. If you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. We're going to mix in a different app. So I want to do all the heavy lifting over there. So whatever they are overcompensating for, I'm just going to decrease. Doesn't have to be exact, but I just kind of want it close to 0, as balanced as possible. This delay I'm going to remove because I'm going to do a different delay. And I'll remove this space maker because I want to do a different reverb. And I'm actually going to add a studio reverb. So I'll talk about everything they got in here. So they got a noise gate, and it acts to remove everything below negative 35.3 dB. So any like excess noise that you may not want to have in your vocal track, it acts to remove that. It's a graphic EQ where you can kind of mix if you want to. I personally don't like this EQ, or really they have a high mids and lows EQ I don't like as much either. That's why I mix on a different app. But you're more than welcome to use the EQ here, and they have another EQ, this one, if you want to use this one. I think this one has a better quality sound, but it's still difficult to. It's more difficult for me to use it because I can't see the frequencies on this one. So I like to see a visual when I'm mixing. So yeah, this is a de-esser. So anything like s or t, any sibilants, it acts to remove that frequency range. I usually just leave it the way it is, but you can drag this up and down to figure out where your sibilance is coming from. But I think generally 7800 works pretty good for me. But just this is your art, your creative freedom. So just play with it, see which works best for you. So I'll just keep it right there for now. And this compressor is just like the gain is like how much is increasing the lower peaks of your vocal track, and the peak reduction is basically doing the opposite. It's just how it's reducing or compressing the high peaks of your vocal track and lowering those volumes to give it a more balanced, consistent volume sound. This is dimension. It's just like a little effect, like a coating, I guess best way I can describe it, over your vocals. And I think it sounds pretty good. I think it gives it a little bit more depth to it. And so this is the reverb that I'm adding. I'm actually going to take it down to about 4. And I'll go ahead and play the track so you guys can hear. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to reset it so you can just hear how it sounds by itself.
she went to Gucci, I gave her the product. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle.
So that's what the Yachty filter sounds like by itself. We'll get into Autotune later, actually. I'll do the Autotune later. So that's how it sounds by itself. So that's why I removed the delay, because I don't really like the space that they have. So the next thing I'm going to add is some studio reverb. And I'm going to bring all of these down to 4. I'm actually going to play it.
Gucci, I gave her the product. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah,
So that's just like an extreme high or low reverb. So what I kind of like to do is give it around 4.
Been sipping the bottle. She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah, I straight been sipping the bottle. She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions,
So what actually reverb does, it kind of just pushes your vocals back into the music more, so it's more of like one sound with the instrumental instead of two separate entities. So that's why I like to use reverb. That's what I use it for, and that's what I feel like it accomplishes. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do is actually, so we'll go ahead and I'll show you how that like pushes back in the music a little bit.
gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah, I straight been sipping the bottle. She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah, I straight been sipping the bottle. She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah, I straight been sipping the bottle.
I don't know if you can tell, but I definitely like the sound better when I add a little reverb in there. But there's no delay, so I like to use this just the filter echo that they have on there. I turn the mix. I like the mix is just like how loud your echo is, and the delay is how long the delay is gonna last. I noticed for this track specifically, the delay that I want it to be around is about 400 milliseconds. So that's kind of what it sounds like, just like that. Feedback is like how long the echo goes for, and the cutoff is the frequency at which the echo actually gets cut off at. So I actually like to put the echo underneath. So I'm going about 700 hertz sometimes. Sometimes I do 2000 or 1000, but sometimes I'm just doing 700. So the echo sounds like this.
Solutions, I gave them the problems.
See, it's like underneath, so it's not interfering with my main vocal track. But if I put it up here to 16,000, this is what it'll sound like.
Fresh off the market, I'm sucking.
It'll sound just the same, and it'll kind of crowded to me. So I like to put my echoes underneath. You can add the feedback a little bit. And this
the product, my hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah, I straight been sipping the bottle. She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions, I gave them the.
So yeah, I feel like that's kind of good for me. So that's actually pretty much all I do with this filter. And then I go to mix and InTrack Pro. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the Autotune. And the Autotune can be found right here at the bottom where it says Auto Pitch TM. You click on it. I have my Autotune pretty close to all the way up, but I can just show you what it sounds like with and without. Okay, so without the Autotune, this is what it sounds like.
She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel.
And with the Autotune all the way up, it sounds like this.
She went to Gucci, I gave her the Prada. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the.
So most of you can probably tell it's not really a whole lot difference, but there is a difference. And I particularly, I like the Autotune sound better with my vocals, but I don't always have it all the way up. I have it probably about 90% what I like typically.
Fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the.
In my opinion, I just think it polishes my vocal just a little bit. So, and also keep in mind, if you import your instrumental on Bandlab, you see that the Autotune was in E flat minor, G flat major. If you import it through Bandlab, it'll already automatically find the key, revision key, E flat minor. So that's really beneficial if you're doing Autotune, because then you don't have to figure out the key of the Autotune, which really isn't that hard. You just kind of drag this around just to see what key your song is in. But I mean, you see here, you got a bunch of different options you can try. What is that? 12 different options that you might have to figure out. So, but if you import it in Bandlab, you don't have to, you can skip that trial and error, which takes sometimes about, 5 minutes, not really long, but it can really affect your workflow. So that's nice that they already find that key for you. So after you do that, you want to isolate all of your vocal tracks. So if this was the only one I was working on, then I would just isolate this one. But if I was working on more, say all of my vocals are track 6, 7, and this 4 copy right here, I would isolate all of these and then save it. Click save. Then after you save it, you go to your most recent version, and then you download right here. If you have Android, it'll look something like this. I usually just download to the drive. So just something like that, and then you save it. Your one file has been uploaded. So when you do it on Android to the drive, it'll only say uploaded one file. Then you have to locate that file. And then you got to click the three dots on the side and then actually download it from there. And then after that, we can do the next step, the mixing part of the step in InTrack, which is a different app. This is the free version on the right. And this is the pro version, which it cost me like $30 for the app, but I thought for me it was worth it. Once you're in InTrack, it should look something like this. And what you want to do to start is you want to click the X at the. So just so you know, if you don't have the pro version, I think the pro version is like either 99 cents a month or $2.99 a month, something like that. But it cost me $30 for just a one-time fee. And I think the two main differences is the pro version. It has unlimited tracks, so I can add as many tracks. I actually had a song on here one time and had 80 different tracks, which ended up not being so good because all of it just went so slow and it was really hard to edit and hard to go through everything. So I don't recommend having 80 tracks. I'm not for sure how many tracks it can go without it, maybe 12 or something like that. And when you go to download, when you go to save, you can only do it in the MP3, in the compress, and the InTrack SNG. You can't do the 16-bit wave or the 24-bit wave. So if you're looking to have a wave file, which I typically do, go ahead and get the pro version. It's $30. But if not, then don't worry about it. Just get the MP3. The MP3 works good too. So to get your audio file, the track that you just downloaded from Bandlab, what you want to do is click the import audio file. You want to search for it wherever it may be. Once you found your audio file, first thing you want to do is click the top right up here, and you should get a screen like this. And you want to scroll down to EQ, because that's where we're going to do our mixing. All right, so just to give you a quick overview, this here at the top is how to add a band, which a band is these circle things that help you control different frequency ranges. So I'm going to go ahead and actually add a band before I get started. And these lines right here, that's about 10 dBs. Positive 10, this is negative 10, negative 20. And down here you can see that's negative 30. Same thing up at the top, up there, it's positive 30 dBs. And just as a good reference point, you don't really want to boost or cut over 5 dBs aside from the high pass filter, which I'll get into. But you don't really want to boost or cut more than this line right here. That's kind of like your safety range. Unless you're going for a specific sound, there are instances when you want to do that, boost or cut higher than that. And if you have certain specific, instruments that are occupying a certain frequency, you might want to cut your vocals or boost your vocals around that area. But other than that, you want to kind of keep it within this little guideline. One thing I like about InTrack is that if you look over there on the right, top right, you can see the frequency that you're at. So if you're like trying to figure out what frequency you want to cut or boost, you can kind of have a reference point with the frequencies that they give you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a high pass filter. This is going to be my high pass. So the reason why you want to have a high pass filter is to create space for your lows and your instrumentals, for the bass and the kick, so your vocals and your bass isn't competing for attention. When the bass and the kick hits, when it's competing, it sounds like your vocals are getting quieter, and it just kind of sounds muddy, and it doesn't sound clear and clean. So that's why you want to put a high pass filter, just so the bass can be more prominent and have a more developed presence. So let me go ahead and play the track.
She went to Gucci, I gave her the product. They want solutions, I gave them the problems. I'm fresh off the market, I'm selling the product. My hand on the wheel and my foot on the throttle. Yeah.
So what I see is that around 165, 170-ish, my vocals aren't really occupying much of that space. So I'm going to raise my high pass filter up to there. And I have this boost cut band right here just to kind of make the high pass a little bit more aggressive. You definitely don't have to do that. It's just something I like to do. Other than trying to edit the slope, I just find this easier for me to do. So I want to add one more band. I want to search for around 450 hertz for my vocals specifically. And right there, I want to cut a couple of dBs. Let me go ahead and edit the slope just a little bit. All right, so that looks good. All right, and as I play this vocals, I'm going to kind of see what frequency I like and which one I don't like. You can drag this around anywhere you want, just to kind of see what frequencies sound like what. And so here's going to be an example of that.
Straight been sipping the bottle, it's just some water. They should be asking me what I be on, and I'm telling them nada. I'ma see God first, that's a model. My baby boy need a role model, so I'ma lead the way and be a good father. And this year I'ma make $1 million. They done the threat on my boy, that's a.
So there you can kind of see what frequencies sound like what. I tend to find this 1K to 2K, 3K-ish area to be a little bit of a benefit for me to boost, but not very much. Maybe like a dB or so.
Promise I made up my mind, I ain't trying to some months and I got it. Stacking up guala on guala and it ain't no bother. Trying to have my whole family straight with no worries of Kuna Matata. Jesus, take the wheel.
So I like that boost right there. And that's right around 1200. And 1200 hertz seems to be a good fit for my vocals at this point. So now the final thing I want to do is add a high shelf boost on the highs. Just to give it a more polished sound at the top to make it a little bit more crisp and clean. And I'll go ahead and show you what exaggerated high shelf boost sounds like, and then I'll drag it down to where I actually want it to be.
And I can take the back seat. Then the devil me first when he intention with the Prada. I gave her the Gucci. She want all these diamonds. I gave her some rubies and I keep it raw. So just call me the sushi. I ain't even been acting, still feel like a movie. Feel like a king with no pressure to prove it. I'm 26 now and I'm still dropping music. I'm taking these risks and I'm taking my shots with the ball in my hands and you know I'm a shooter.
I think that sounds pretty good for me. Everyone's vocals are different. So each vocal is going to be a different mix just because there's going to be different elements, different instruments that have different sounds. And most of the time when you have a different song, you're going to be singing or rapping or talking at a different register. You're not going to have the same tone. So typically I would have a more high pass filter around 120 to 130. But for this one, since I'm rapping kind of in a higher tone, my high pass is around 160. So yeah, that's all for the mixing. If you have something that generally looks like this, more or less, it should be a decent mix. I feel like this is a good reference point to start with. But when you get with different kinds of preferences and more advanced settings with different instruments and specific sounds you want to convey in your song, there will be some other different things that you want to do and implement in this mix. There's a little science behind it, but overall, mainly it's just about the feel. However it makes you feel, that's what you want to go with. So what you want to do when you download it is you want to click those three dots at the bottom, save export, name it at the top. I already named it. Just to note is that when you don't have the Pro, you won't be able to do 16-bit or 24-bit wave or any of these wave files. You'll just be able to do the MP3 right here. But that's fine. That works perfectly good for what we're doing. But if you want to like get the best out of your experience and get a higher quality sound, just get the Pro version. Then I download 24-bit. And then we're done with InTrack. So the next thing you want to do is you want to import this track into your Bandlab. So once you downloaded your track from InTrack Pro, you want to open up Bandlab again. To the project that you were working on, you want to go to the plus symbol down at the bottom left and go to import audio. Find your track and it should import down here. Now keep in mind it might be a little slightly off beat, so you do want to align it up. See right here, my first vocal starts right there, and this one is all the way up here, so I'll have to scoot this back. Yeah. All right, so now we got our final vocal track and then our beat. I actually comprised the beat into 3 separate parts. I did a high pass filter and a low pass filter on 2 separate parts just to give it a different unique sound. I actually just go ahead and just show you guys what I did on the beat. So on the beat, so the regular beat sounds like this. Let me mute the vocal track. So right there I did a high pass filter, multi-filter on Bandlab, high pass around 298. So really what I'm getting rid of is the lows. I recently heard this in one of Drake's songs. I think it's called Uptown. Well, I recently paid attention to it. So like, yeah, at the beginning of it, the producer does this high pass filter on the instrumental which kind of takes the lows kind of out, so sounding like this. So the bass isn't really that prominent, and then it really makes the bass drop even more dope, like when it comes in. So this is kind of like what I wanted to go for, the sound that I wanted to go for. Like this is the beat dropper. To me, I just thought that was a cool little dynamic to add in there. And then I did a low pass filter. So then I cut off the top of the instrumental. So everything above 394 Hz is not there. It's being cut off as a low, just allowing the low to pass through. That's what low pass kind of self-explanatory means. And then so the beat sounds like this, and it goes into like a little muffled kind of sound, which I think is pretty cool going out to the end. So that's what I fade out with. And I thought those are two little cool dynamics to put in there. But yeah, however you want to do it. You know, this is, you got complete creative freedom. There's no right or wrong. It's just a feel and see how you like it. So now the only thing I'm really going to do now is just edit the volume of my vocal. Kind of try to make it one sound, and instead of making it like two different entities, to kind of make it one element. And a good way I think of it is to listen to the snare and try to make the vocals kind of match that volume, and maybe a little higher in some circumstances, but try to keep the snare and the vocals around the same volume so it kind of blends more to it. So let's listen.
Stacking up guala on guala and it ain't no bother. Tryna have my hope in the straight with no worries of Kuna Matata. Jesus, take the wheel and I can take the back seat.
All right, to me that sounds pretty good. You don't have to think too much of it. And the reason why you want to do the high pass filter for your vocals is because you want to have a nice prominent bass and kick in your song, and taking away those low register frequencies that you're most likely not going to occupy out of your vocals kind of creates a little space for the bass and the kick to breathe. So anytime you're mixing like your vocals, try to keep that in mind, because that's really important. But anyway, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, watching. We're going to have more videos to come. But until then, let's keep making this music. Let's keep doing it for free. And let's keep rising, guys.
It's time to rise up. It's time to rise up. So let you rise up. Let you rise up. We multiply love.